Order, please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all.
Please remain standing for a moment of silent reflection for our servicemen and women throughout the world and for those who have passed away in our community, especially William Bill Naughton and Reverend Monsignor William J. Feldkamp. Thank you. Roll call, please.
Mr. King?
Here.
Mr. Schuster?
Present.
Dr. Rothschild?
Here.
Mr. McAndrew? Mr. Smurl?
Here. I'd like to make a motion to take from the table Resolution 235 of 2025.
Second.
There's a motion on the floor and a second to take from the table Resolution 235 of 2025 and place it in seventh order for a final vote. The resolution is the contract with People Guru to perform payroll processing services. If anyone would like to speak on this piece of legislation, you may do so in fourth order, citizens' participation. On the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it, and so moved. Dispense with reading in minutes.
Third order, 3A, correspondence received from City Business Administration on June 26, 2025, regarding updated quarterly payroll preparation tax collections as of June 26, 2025.
Are there any comments on the third order items? If not, received and filed. Do any council members have any announcements?
Yeah, just a couple. Obviously, the 4th of July is Friday. That Scrantastic event is going to happen here in Scranton, downtown, in the front of the courthouse square. Philharmonic is going to, I believe they're starting around 7 p.m. Fireworks should be about at 9 p.m., so that should be a really great night to celebrate. There's also an event that's happening up at the Everhart Museum. I believe that starts at 11 o'clock on Friday, the 4th of July. Also, people have been asking about the second half of the year, the recycling schedules. They went out, or if you haven't received them, I noticed they have some downstairs as you walk into City Hall, so feel free to grab one of those. I think that's all I have. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. King. Anyone else?
So one other thing, the Department of Public Works will be closed on July 4th, and garbage and recycling will be one day behind due to that July 4th holiday.
Thank you.
Yes, I also wanted to mention the Scrantastic Spectacular and the 4th of July. Hope everyone has a good holiday celebrating. Just want to remind people to celebrate safely. Please keep in mind the city's ordinances when it comes to fireworks. I know this is a big weekend for them, and just want to make sure that people are responsible and safe over the holiday weekend. I also wanted to make note of a couple of things that the Scranton Parks and Rec Department has going on over the summer. Just because there's some things that, not that I've forgotten, but that I want to keep in mind as well that we had. So they're doing movies at the park, so every couple of weeks at different parks throughout the city, they are having movies in the evening time for kids. So that's something really fun that they're doing. They also did a cooking class the other month that I heard had gone very well. And I think the next movie looks like on Saturday, July 12th at Connell Park, and looks like they all start at 8:30 p.m. when it starts to get dark out. So you could definitely check out what the Parks and Rec Department has on those. And they also just did an Arts in the Park series, and they're hosting a summer camp too at Weston Fieldhouse, and it's for ages 8 through 12. The cost being $25 per week, and that's going to take place from July 7th to August 1st, 8:30 a.m. to 3 p.m. So I think that's something really great that we're offering. and something to give the kids to do, especially in that age group. So you can register if interested in that. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. There's one announcement I have. The Lackawanna County Disability Action Committee will sponsor an event to solicit input regarding the needs of people with disabilities. It's called Building Bridges. It's a Disability Town Hall. Will be held on July 31st from 1 p.m. till 4 p.m. at the Lackawanna County Trolley Museum. It's 300 Cliff Street. And it will be an open forum for people with disabilities, the public, to identify barriers that inhibit people from getting into various buildings, or where we may need some more curb cuts and stuff like that.
Fourth order, citizen participation.
First, Joan Hodowanis.
Joan Hodowanis, Scranton. As I gave you a copy of this brochure from the Historical Society, History Set in Stone, A Guide to Downtown Scranton Architecture, this is just one example of why we should be very proud of our city. Yes, it has its problems, and I am as guilty as anyone else complaining about various issues. But this little brochure, it's in both, there's an English version and a Spanish version. I got my copy for free up at the public library. It's also probably available from the Historical Society itself. It gives a little description of all of the historical buildings in basically downtown Scranton, and some outside of the downtown, like the Tripp House, the Silkman House, and other areas. This is something we should be very proud of, and we should know this history if we, are Scrantonian. So please read it and share it with your friends. Okay, the legislation hiring Spry and Associates for assessment, appeal, legal services. I wanted to get a feeling for how much money it might run up. And all you see is $190 per hour for attorney fees and $105 per hour for paralegals, which is fine, and it cites the general fund as the source. But I assume there's going to be an awful lot of Scrantonians submitting appeals, so I hope it doesn't run up too much of a bill. And the other thing on legislation is basically the parking system changes. I'm just a little bit concerned. I read through the backup, especially the PowerPoint presentation. I was here during the caucus when the Community Development Properties at Scranton presented their pitch. And basically, they're saying that because of COVID, they're not reaching their revenue goals. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but COVID is kind of over, isn't it? And I'm not too sure whether, COVID is basically a good reason for why they're having problems. But there are many things they want to do. They want the city to give them $200,000 a year for the next 10 years. They want to, there's a refinancing of up to $35 million. They're having problems with debt servicing. They want to transfer ownership of all the meters and the parking garages back to the city. Let's see. And they've offered some ways we might get some extra money back, like solar panels on the upper floors of the parking garages. And oh, yes, the possibility of a parking tax on parking meters and parking lots. Isn't that delightful? Yet another tax, okay? And one of the areas of the little PowerPoint presentation is CDPS is required to annually identify and apply for grants that can also be used for system maintenance. When was the last time they applied for a grant, if ever?
I don't know if they ever did, but the The contract now says they will join the city and we will be with them doing the grants.
Well, at any rate, I know I'm a little bit cynical about this, but, you know, it sounds to me like we're pulling their nuts out of the fire, if you'll excuse my French. They're having problems keeping their head above water fiscally, and we're going to be rescuing them. And I agree, you know, you need to have a sound and operational parking system in the city. But I don't think they're carrying their own weight. It sounds like Rubicon 2.0 once more. So just my opinion. I would like to hear your opinions and a little information in fifth order, especially about, you think we need a parking tax among our other taxes?
That's just for private lots downtown that are using them.
And the meters, according to the PowerPoint presentation, both the meters and parking lots. So
They will be here next week for caucus.
I hope everybody comes and reads the backup. Thank you.
Thank you, Joan. Norma Jeffries?
Norma Jeffries, city resident and of Scranton. And I wanted to start tonight, I wasn't here last week, but I wanted to start tonight to thank everyone for the flower show and the attendance of everyone that came. And I always say the Scranton residents, I want to thank them, but it's throughout the valley, throughout Lackawanna County, that people come to the flower show. And I'm a lady of prayer, and I prayed like crazy that we would not have rain that day. And lo and behold, we did not have rain. It rained the next day, but it did not rain on us that day. So, you know, I just thank the Lord for the beautiful day that we had, the beautiful attendance by all. We do have some issues that we have to work on, and most of them is dealing with how do we get food trucks in there. We contract with the people to come, but they don't show up for some reason or other. So that's always an issue, is because people want to eat when they're outside, you know, and we don't have a lot of that. But we're working on that. We do try to keep a list of anything that we can improve on for the next year, and that's what we'll do. We're working on the date for 2026, and as soon as I get the date, you know, I'll be sharing with everyone so you can put it on your calendars for 2026. The next thing I want to talk about is the trash pickup. I'm a single person. I don't have a lot of trash, but the night of Thursday night, that Juneteenth, that would have been my normal pickup day on Thursday. I had my one little trash can out, and it was a windy storm came up that night, if you could recall. And that morning, by Friday, my trash can had been blown over. They did not take the trash. They did not take my trash. The lid was on. It wasn't like the trash was all over the street. It was still, the lid was on. It's just that my trash can had been blown over. I called the DPW, no return. I called again. All I want is, what is the process when this happens? What do the residents of Scranton do when their trash is not picked up? I was going away, and I call it my dirty trash. I leave my dirty trash in my freezer until the night before, and I put it out because I don't want it to smell. I don't want the animals to get in it. I live right by Nayout Park, so we have a lot of animals. So I put my dirty trash in for it to be picked up. Well, I couldn't let it sit until the following week, so I'm calling around trying to see who has a trash pickup the following day or something, so I could take my trash, which is only one bag, and have it take it to someone else's. So my request is, what is the process for DPW to pick up a trash when they've skipped? Also, as I walk in the park, the trash pickup, you know, what is the schedule for the trash pickup at the park? On Sunday, you know, we had the concert on Sunday, and there had been some activity over in the Shem Pavilion over there. The trash was overflowing on Sunday. So I guess they went from Saturday, there must have been a party or something, the trash wasn't picked up. And then on Sunday, it was in plastic black bags. But still, you know, they're just very fortunate that the animals don't come and tear it apart, because they tear mine apart. That's why I don't put my trash really out until late. But I'd just like to know, there must be a process, there must be a schedule or something that can help us residents of Scranton to know and how the trash is picked up. Number one, if they miss and you call, should I expect a call back? Or is someone going to tell me, go take your trash to XYZ point or something? And like I said, I was going to be out of town and I didn't want it to sit out there. So that's all I have to say about the trash. Now, when I came back from vacation and I was reading the old mail and saw that they were working on the parking situation, the parking is very important to me. I come downtown a lot, and I have the senior pass for the bus, for the Colt bus, but I don't want that. I want to come and go as I please. So the fact that you're going to be possibility of raising the fares on what we pay at the meters, and the hours are going to be extended to 7 o'clock, which means that when we come to council here, which is 6 o'clock, 6:30, we're going to still have to pay at the meters, because I think, if I read correctly, it was going to be until 7 o'clock that the rates were going to be in place. So, you know, that as a senior citizen on a fixed income, each penny that I have to put out, you know, goes against me having to do something else that I can't do if I want to come to town. So those are the things that are on my mind tonight that I'm sharing, and I'm hoping that maybe DPW can get to me. I mean, it's been over a week now, and no one had the common courtesy to call me or send me a text message or something and say, too bad, lady, your trash wasn't picked up. And it wasn't that it was thrown all over the place. That's all I have.
Thank you, Norma. Norma, they normally, the last I heard, when you don't get your trash picked up, if you called, they would respond, but I don't know what's going on down there, so.
Nobody responded, nobody called or anything. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Angela Ramon?
It's good to see you all again this week. I have a few different things I'd like to speak about, so I'll try to be brief. First off, I would like to congratulate the City of Scranton for their defense against the lawsuit over their flying of the pride flag. I think it's a great thing whenever the city stands up and protects our queer community against hate and attacks, especially when it comes to pointless litigation like that. So I do want to thank the city for their actions on that front, but I would also like to say that there is still more work to be done. I didn't get to speak about it because of time restrictions these past 2 weeks, but as you all know, there were the No Kings rallies that happened in our area a few weeks ago, and here in Scranton, as the protest was wrapping up, there was a woman who was violently assaulted by a Trump supporter who had shown up and started throwing belligerent slurs out at people in the crowd. And thankfully there were bystanders who had intervened, but by that time the woman in question had already been punched in the face, very, very small lady, being assaulted by this big grown man. And thankfully, again, the community member stepped in, police did arrest him. But instances like that, under our laws currently, are not able to be clearly recognized and recorded as hate crimes in our city, despite the fact that the offender in question was hurling hateful slurs at his victim prior to and during his assault. In addition, during some anti-war protests that were happening again downtown last week, there was a man who had shown up spewing anti-Semitic and Islamophobic slurs at attendees, and he had said out loud to the crowd that he was actually on his way to a synagogue because he had intended to go there to seriously injure or kill some the attendees as well as a rabbi, because he believed that it was his mission to go out and purge the world of evil Jews. And thankfully, again, there were members of the community who were at that protest who intervened when he had started attempting to assault people where they were able to restrain him despite sustaining serious injuries themselves, one of whom is in attendance today. And he did get arrested, but the charges that he initially had were disorderly conduct and public intoxication, nothing to do with the violent assault and battery that he had committed, nothing to do with the violent threats that he had committed, and no recognition of the hateful rhetoric that preceded all of the crimes that he had committed. Thankfully, there were members of our community who had reached out to our DA to ask about getting this man charged appropriately, but by that time, he had been released out on bail. So he was speaking about wanting to freely assault Jews in our community and Muslims in our community, and yet he was allowed to roam free without any pretrial detention. And I would hope that the city takes a look at our laws regarding pretrial detention and hate crimes to make sure that we have clear guidance on how our police and how our district attorney how they're supposed to move forward when encountering cases like this. So that's what I would like to touch on. There's one other thing regarding the multiple ordinances about parking in the city. I will keep this brief. I do believe wholly that entering into an agreement to sell our parking to a private company was a mistake when we did it, and it remained a mistake every single year that we did not end that deal and take back ownership of our public streets. When we allow a private company to own the parking on our streets, we essentially sell the entirety of the street to them. We don't have the freedom and flexibility as a city to make sure that our communities, that our roads, our streets are capable of meeting the demands that are necessary of our community. So for example, if a better use of our land than parking might be to allow for bus lanes to be put in our city, under our current contract, we couldn't do that because we'd have to pay insane amounts of money to the parking company because we'd be eating up their spaces, as well as like many other different ways we could design our roads. So I will say I am in support of taking back ownership of our public streets. Thank you very much and have a good night.
Thank you. Riley Richards?
Hello, my name is Riley Richards, and I'm a resident of Scranton. I am a member of Northeast Pennsylvania's Democratic Socialists of America, as well as NEPA for Palestine. We had organized an anti-war rally to take place at the courthouse square. We had marshals, including myself, who were there to help keep everybody safe. The individual in question that the previous speaker had mentioned had showed up denying the Holocaust, denying that the Jewish community had gone through the evils that they have gone through. He said that he was there on a dream that he had the night before and was on his way to Hillside to go seek out a rabbi to interrogate them on if they were to his standard of what he considered a good Jew or not. This person kept getting increasingly more irate as we tried to get him to leave. And as everything went down, this person actually left the protest and then went and spoke with law enforcement and then returned to the protest, tried to intervene with an interview that was being done by WNEP and an attendee of the protest, was rejected, left, and returned a second time, and this time he was starting to get vulgar. He had threatened to light all of us up and insinuated that he was carrying a firearm. When he was searched after the arrest, of course, there was no firearm found. However, he had led all of us to believe that he was. During the last moments of him being aggressive and being asked to leave, he physically pushed through me first to get to the rabbi and his group that were there with us, standing in solidarity with us during the protest. He physically pushed me to try and reach the rabbi directly behind me. And this is the moment when we intervened and physically restrained the person. And my focus at the time was to make sure that he could not reach for the firearm he had led us to believe he was having. It took all of, I don't know, maybe 2 or 3 minutes before law enforcement actually intervened. So I would like to echo what the previous speaker had mentioned and seek a pathway to prosecuting these attempted hate crimes and the hate crimes that are followed through. We also would like for the mayor to release a statement that decries all acts of hatred in the city of Scranton against any marginalized member of any community, regardless of their race, regardless of their religion, regardless of their nationality. We are all residents of this great city, and we want to make sure that it is safe for all people here. I would like to wrap up my time on that. Thank you.
Thank you. Ron Ellman?
Good evening, Council. I just have a couple of things that bother me here. One of them was, I think you people are picking up roses and overlooking an orchid about Steamtown. This would be such an interesting attraction if it was promoted more by the city. I never see nothing about it, to amount to anything. And Mr. Smurl, allow me just one little comment about your rerun. Of course, this is my opinion, but I don't think you know your enemies from your friends. You think about that. That's the reason you're up there rerunning again, was redcoats. And now about my enemies, I guess. Up to 2016, the SPA was sucking this city dry, and the then council had two choices, an evil one and an almost worst evil one. No matter which way, it's still evil. It seems, despite what the leftist newspaper hacks have to say about it being a disastrous council-induced default, it eventually turned out for the best. Now, you guys are considering absolute nonsense with the SPA. They signed a contract. You want to make it null and void to save them because of COVID. Think of all the people, think of the thousands of people in this very city that lost homes and cars and furniture. They signed contracts. And here, you people have a feeling, the administration seems to have a feeling for SPA. It's a disgust. Let them suffer like the results of the contract would be. Spending $2 million of tax money, taking back those 4 dilapidated garages and repairing them and maintaining them and giving them all the profit. What are you guys thinking? You're supposed to be up there representing us, not the deadbeats all over the city. Pretty soon I'm going to use some of my own money to further my ambition about the seat up there, because the hacks at the newspaper, I don't expect nothing from them. I can't rely on Mr. Cordero because the biggest tax cheat in town is one of his sponsors. So here I am. I got almost all my signatures. Well, I got half my signatures. I talked to hundreds of people. I don't know how you get them to vote. It seems like people just don't seem to care no more about the city. There's something wrong that I can't put my hands on. This is such a good city, and I love it. I've told you, I live here by choice. Real quick, a friend of mine offered me a tremendous job in Memphis if I wanted to go back. And I said, no, I'd like to stay up here. But while I'm thinking of it, before you spend all your money on grants for restaurants and fingernail salons, start doing something for Steamtown. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hellman. Les Spindler?
Evening, Council. Les Spindler, city resident, homeowner. You know, I have to speak one more time about the child that was brought here last week and how disgusted I was that nothing was done. Mr. Smurl, you let the person get away with an unruly child. It was disrespectful, disruptive, and it never should have let it happen. Every time he yelled, you smiled, and Councilwoman Rothschild smiled. Did you think it was cute? This is a city council meeting. It's not a daycare center. Leave the child home. If you can't get a babysitter, stay home. I've been coming to these meetings for many, many years, and in the past, nothing like that would have been acceptable. It's ridiculous. I mean, you have 1 foot out the door. You should just leave now and let somebody run the meetings that knows how to do it. Not to let the people be here disrespected, coming and looking out for our city. Next thing, Councilman King, and Mr. McAndrew's not here. Last week, you said about your daughters going through the Scranton School District. That's all well and good.
Mr. Spindler, address the chair, please. You're not going to ask questions to each individual council person.
All right, well, 2 council people last week spoke about the Scranton School District, how great it was. My daughters also went to the school district. But if it's so great, why, when Eugene D. Pasquale was Auditor General, why did he send somebody from the state here to oversee the school district? Because things weren't being run right. Oh, that's all I have to say about that. It was such a great school district, why did he have to do that? Next thing, my favorite subject, pave cuts. I'm told we don't have a pave inspector, but it's a private company that's doing their job. Well, they're not doing their job, obviously. There's pave cuts all over the city. I'm here every single week talking about it, and nothing is being done. This council should be on that company's backs, making sure these pave cuts are taken care of. There's one on my block that's getting worse by the week. If you can't go around it, because cars usually park there. You have to stop and then go through it. It's unsafe, and it's ridiculous. You people work for us, but you're not doing a darn thing. You should. If I was up there, I'd be after that company every single day and say, why aren't you doing their job? Lastly, those stores we had last Thursday. I went outside, took video of the river running in front of my house, on my sidewalks. I've been promised for years and years and years that it's going to be fixed. First, there was the day shift DPW inspector, came up, painted lines about almost 3 years ago. Oh, we're going to fix your corner. Line number 1. Then I'm told the engineer came up and said, oh, it's the way the road is pitched. Doesn't matter how the road is pitched. If I had a curb on the corner, the water's not going to get on my sidewalks. I don't care how the road is pitched. Put a darn curb on my corner. That was another lie. Lie number 3. A year or two ago, they said North Rebecca was on the paving list, and they're going to fix my corner when it was paved. Another lie. The road was never paved. Oh, lastly, I'm told, and you were one person that said it, Mr. Smurl, and you and Mr. Schuster, that I'm put under some other project. When is that project going to be? Where is it? When is this going to get taken care of? I'm sick of rain coming on my property, not being able to walk down my front steps. It's ridiculous. I'm sick of the lies. This city is disgusting. The mayor and DPW should get together. I'm giving the city an ultimatum. If somebody from DPW isn't up there by this Thursday, I'm going to take it upon myself to put a curb in. Whether they like it or not, what I do, I don't give a damn, because I've had it. This city doesn't do a damn thing. I was made promise after promise after promise, and they're nothing but lies. So I'm just going to go up, get some quick concrete, and make some kind of curb there. If they don't like the way it looks, let them come up and do a better job, because I've had it. And Mayor and DPW, you have till Thursday. The clock is ticking. Tick tock, tick tock.
Thank you. Don Hafner?
Before I begin, I do have some pictures I'd like you to see as to what I'm speaking of. Is that okay? Okay. Good evening. My name is Dawn Hafner. I'm a city resident, taxpayer, and I am here to express my concern and disappointment regarding the ongoing failure of the city of Scranton to enforce its own ordinances. As a resident and taxpayer, I believe it is both my right and responsibility to speak out when our city government is not fulfilling its basic duties. For the past several months, our neighborhood has been under attack, particularly my family. Our neighbor has been cited numerous times for outside placement of indoor furniture, animal waste and feces, and accumulating rubbish and garbage, as well as ownership of a multitude of cane corsos, which would be the Italian Mastiff. What once was a beautifully kept home, valued at over $300,000, has deteriorated to a condemnable status, accompanied by a mortgage foreclosure. In reference to the city citation R3693179-0 for placing indoor furniture, this rodent-filled sectional couch has been in the yard since September 25th, 2024. This furniture is not only an eyesore, but rodents are now entering our home and property. As this furniture is sitting on my property line, it can appear to passersby that it belongs to my family. In reference to the city citation R3693178-6, animal waste and feces, there are piles of waste and feces on the deck and house of this nuisance property, declared nuisance on June 10th by Judge Powell. Pet waste is raw sewage. It can transmit bacteria, viruses, and other pathogens to humans and other animals, including tapeworm, roundworm, E. coli, Giardia, Salmonella, and much more. Now, I wish to address the number of cane corsos at this residence. As many of you should be aware, this has been on the local news, social media, and has been presented to the magisterial and common pleas courts. What started off as 2 males and 3 females has grown to more than 20+ dogs. Two of the largest cane corsos, weighing over 150 pounds each, have jumped over the deck and landed in our fenced-in yard. Just to make you aware, a cane corso has a 700-pound bite force and could take down a bear. Currently, there are 11 cane corsos, weighing between 70 and 150 pounds. There are several puppies remaining of the current 3 litters that were birthed this last spring. We've extended an invitation to city officials to experience what we are exposed to on a daily basis while we try to enjoy our well-maintained property. But no one accepted. We are grateful to Mike Gowerty, Jenny Callie, Katie Gallone, Tom Schuster, Elizabeth Hakis, and attorney Mary Claire Hayes for their due diligence in assisting in bringing the situation to the public's attention. We rely on our ordinances not only to maintain order and safety, but also to preserve the quality of life in our community. When these laws go unenforced, the results are felt in increased nuisances, a breakdown in community standards, and a growing sense that the rules no longer matter. This failure sends the wrong message, that accountability is optional and that the concerns of residents can be ignored. I urge this council to explain why these ordinances have not been enforced and to take immediate steps to remedy the situation. Enforcement should not be optional or selective. We deserve a local government that is consistent, responsive, and committed to upholding the very standards it has set. The address of the property is 421 Campbell Street. And if anybody wants to reach out and wants more specificity on the pictures, it was family-to-family purchase, my 2426 Pittston Avenue home and the 421 on Campbell Street. So we shared a gate. It wasn't a problem. I'm there 23 years. The family prior was there 30 years. Well, now it becomes a problem because 150-pound dogs are jumping over the deck. Even if, put up a fence. Okay, I can only have 6 foot. A privacy fence does not stop the smell, the stench coming from the property, and if they can jump over 8 feet, they would still jump over a fence. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Bowman, we will have, at the end of the meeting, we'll hold our questions until then. We'll give them all to you in the office and to find out, get some answers for us.
All right.
Virgil Argenta.
Good evening, Council. Virgil Argenta, Scranton. This council has a self-proclaimed fiscal watchdog. It is reported that another construction firm, which was a low bidder on the Capous Avenue splash pad project, will be suing the city in the coming days, increasing the total number of lawsuits related to this project to 2. For some reason, this administration is determined to award this bid to the higher bidding construction firm for the 3rd time. Why? This is the 3rd time this project has been rebid, and one had previously involved court proceedings. To date, this project has cost city taxpayers over $300,000 without providing any results. This wasted money could have been used for other city projects. The watchdog's title should be changed to lapdog. Council, would you please provide the number of lawsuits filed against the city of Scranton during this current administration, along with the total amount of funds dispersed to plaintiffs who have won victories and verdicts against the city of Scranton? The taxpayers should be privy to this information. Council members, it's fair to assume that most of you are intelligent and respectful, who understand the importance of honoring the wishes of those who have passed away. When someone leaves property with specific intentions, one would hope that their wishes are upheld, correct? Are you familiar with the name Mary Rubin? In 1943, Mary Rubin donated a piece of property to the city with specific deed instructions, specifying that it be used solely as a playground. For many years and through numerous administrations, this property remained unused. It's disappointing that no one on City Council defended Mary Rubin's wishes. When the city government contested these restrictions in court, The city deemed the location unsuitable for a park, yet decided that placing a salt shed in the same neighborhood was a better idea. The situation highlights a disregard for the intentions of benefactors in favor of governmental decisions. Our board meetings now being held in the lobby of City Hall, being that the doors are locked. Are you aware of the Friday board meeting that was held in City Hall lobby? That needs to be addressed. That's embarrassing. And Mr. King, parking authority leases, as you said about Rubicon, they're made to be broken. We all know business people that leases are made to be broken. We should break the Scranton Parking Authority lease and take back the Scranton Parking Authority. And when does the safety of the dogs come into play? I was at the 400 at Campbell. I saw the conditions of those poor dogs. There's no reason that council can't do some type of ordinance and protect the animals. We don't care what the people do that live there, but we need to protect the animals. Thank you, council.
Thank you, Mr. Argenta. Rick Little?
Hello, Scranton. Rick Little. I'm still running for mayor. I've clearly found out what the problem is locally. It's Satan. It's demons. Satan overall, but demons getting into people, everybody, including me, filling my head with wrong ideas, wrong way to make things better. The thing about Satan is that they always give themselves away. They always predict what they're going to do, just like that Maverick 220 Top Gun movie Maverick, which perfectly describes what happened in Iran, the bombing of Iran. And it's been that way in the movies all my life. I remember when I was a little kid, my first Stanley Kubrick movie, which was Spartacus, I was like 7 or 8, asleep in the back of the car, and I woke up during this, weird scene where everybody was nailed to telephone poles all going down the street. And that's an image that always stuck with me. It's like, they didn't have telephones then. It's like, what are these people, what's this going on, with Tony Curtis and stuff. But the thing that's the biggest waste is they do the same thing over and over and over again. And, it's mind-boggling, talking about, the homeless problem and they're closing down the Keystone Mission, but they already gave a big grant to the Keystone Mission, and the paper conflates it with Luzerne County's mission, and there's no beds there. There's nothing for the homeless here. And it's a thing that has been going on a long time, and I've been trying to figure it out. I went over to Washington West, and I look at the plaque, and I see Mayor Walsh, who was mayor 1966 to 70. And so I go online, and I'm trying to, and it has the names of everybody on the Scranton Housing Authority board on there, and a lot of the names rang true, and I can see them in the judgeships and the people who get the contracts. And but the demon thing is very much in the justice system. I've been talking about 302 fraud, where they know that Medicaid pays for it. They just have to point to a guy and say, hey, you're a danger to yourself and others. even before they've had their due process and they know that their security guard up at Geisinger, the nurse can just do that. And it'll be reported in the paper and people will read about it and think about how horrible the homeless are and how bad all the crime is. And it doesn't make sense because it's not real. It's not real. There's more than enough housing. There's more than enough people that should have housing. Basically, the housing problem, they're talking about, they have this thing called Act Blue when it goes, sub-freezing weather. That's when we're going to start thinking about getting beds for the homeless. But the fact of the matter is, Scranton Housing Authority was that solution. It was that solution many, many years ago. That's what it was. It was housing for the elderly. Now, it's housing for the Democrat elite pawns, the people who work for Catholic services. They keep a lot of old people in there because they're brainwashed into their Democrat voting. They have their Democrat voting inspectors and judges in there. And that's how the same thing happens year after year after year in this area. And there's no reason for it.
Thank you, Mr. Little. That's all for the sign-in sheet. Anyone else wish to address council? Let's come up. You just state your name and address for the record.
Michael Duffy, could you, can I run these up, or?
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry. Here. I'm a lifelong citizen of Scranton. I live at 2301 Burney Avenue. This is what I got to live with every day. I've called the 311 line at least 25 times this year. Never get a call back. You call the mayor's office, never get a call back. I went to the county commissioner. He's trying to help me out. This is a disease-infested property. I would like something done. This is the first time I've ever been here, but I spent all day Sunday cleaning all the junk that was hanging over the fence from that property. The address is there. It's been on the judicial list the last 3 years running. I sign up to buy the property off of the county, and it gets canceled the day before, every time. So can we get something done? It's loaded with woodchucks, skunks, frogs. Frogs keep you awake all night. I'm at wit's end. The little blue garage there, that's my garage. There's a tree growing through it from his property through my roof. I go knock on his door. I want to cut the tree down. He doesn't answer his door. So I don't know where to go.
Mr. Duffy, is this land on the...
I can't.
Is this land on the land bank, or is there a private owner?
It's a non-payment of taxes, I believe. It's a judicial sale.
Judicial sale, okay, thank you.
Right? Am I right? So, I won't take any more of your time. I'm just here venting that the city is not doing anything. They don't even recall me back. I spoke to a Don King 3 weeks ago. He was sending someone from zoning over, and he would call me back the next day, and still waiting. Okay.
All right, we will find out. Mr. Oldenburg, if you will find out what information they have, and also the zoning officer, what information they have on this. We can look into what's going on and how long it's been going on.
I'll follow up with all departments.
Perhaps Attorney Gilbride can speak to one of the solicitors from the city and see if they've been involved with this. We could try to, I mean,
Okay,
why does
I'm
it
finished.
continue to be canceled every time that there's supposed to be a sheriff's sale? Thank you.
Tom Coyne Manuka. Not sure where to start. Maybe we can get a board game designed for Scranton based on a theme of chutes and ladders. Scranton's potholes and pit traps. The pothole at Finning Street, surprisingly enough, is still untouched, as if I didn't expect it for being reported for well over half a year and addressed by the council. Who is authorizing the DPW payroll if there's no director? I may be incorrect, but I believe the code states that once your time expires as an acting director and you're not appointed, you can't be tossed back in as acting director. It's a one-shot deal. And Cipriani was already the acting director. On to parking. So we're back for the third time at the pockets of the people. We sold the stake of the city parking and we're looking at a lease until 2070, well after my death. What a ridiculous number. Part of this was Scranton bailout of a bond with a company who speculated on making profit from the income. They came back after COVID and we moved to help them and extended the contract. We gave them free money from the Recovery Act to fix the garages and elevators while we dodge potholes. Now they're back again because the due diligence from investors failed and they want to change the cards in play to modify the rules. Tell me why, if they made a bet and lost, we as a population of the city should pay for their bad bet. They make it sound as if the bad deal will collapse them without changes, but they're a multi-city corporation, and one small snapshot does not address their business's overall health. What bothers me now is a city that I avoid coming to unless I have to. I will now have to avoid weekends as well, pay for Saturdays, and not visit a city that's closed on Sundays anyway. So much for holiday events, as everyone will be impacted by the late meters. That includes First Friday, all the city festivals like St. Patrick's Day. To avoid parking, you'll have to come to Center City events after 7 p.m. and avoid Saturdays. So much for your grand courthouse views. Let's talk about the political impact. We'll no longer be able to attend city meetings for the boards without paying for parking. Ethics, City Council, Zoning, Planning Commission. All of those meetings start between 6 and 7, and now will require citizens to pay to participate. Years ago, I suggested solar panels on the roof of the parking garages back when Bill Gohan was council president. A nice idea that I put forth, that it could operate, enjoy the electricity, and even sell some of it back to the grid. But we should not be paying for it, as the improvement will eventually be the city's, as they say it gets turned back, well, it'll get turned back over to us. But find me one solar panel that has a manufacturer warranty and lifetime of over 45 years. I bet you're not going to find one. And why is the Health and Welfare Department floating a bond for a nonprofit? Who's floating them? I mean, they're floating a bond as a nonprofit so they can use a tax loophole for the profit parking not to have to pay taxes. And I think for the health and welfare, important things like the Keystone Homeless and the Keystone and the homeless are more important to pay attention to. And as a side note, why is Luzerne County auditing Keystone, including Recovery Act funds, and Scranton is not? Back on subject. There's too much in this bill as it contains multiple changes that should be split into separate bills, as 5 minutes is hardly enough time to address the changes. We're going to hand over $200,000 a year for capital improvements. Maybe the city should have input on what it's paying for, as the capital improvement may not benefit us in the long run. And why is the SPA fund suddenly being divested from the city's pocket into their business? We collected that for the city. It shouldn't be handed over to a for-profit just as a giveaway. In 5K, it mentions assuming all liability for the garages. What are those obligations and liabilities? Is there any actions or lawsuits in the court system at present that we, by accepting a transfer in liability, would expose the city to? And Section 2 looks like the City Council is stripping itself of its oversight. This is the third time, and I think we should really look closer to get it right. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Good evening. David Dobson, resident, taxpayer. Taxes paid. You know, I keep hearing our current mayor being blamed for everything for the last 25 or 30 years here. I'm tired of it. And what do we get? We had a new mayor when we disagreed with Mr. Doherty. And by the way, this parking garage business started with him because he would not empty out the parking authority of incompetent and uncaring people. And along with the Chamber of Commerce wanting all these parking garages built that there was no business for. You know, we have potholes and we have, what else did we have? Everybody from a certain section of town was piled up there at Kaiser Avenue Center, donating all kinds of money. And then 5 or 6 years, we start hearing, oh, the FBI's in town. You know, give me a break. And then we had a guy that mainly had real estate interests in mind, more than really serving for a little time as mayor. And by the way, what I was trying to get across last week was I brought in pictures of pepper spray as home defense, non-lethal, and right away he's asking me if I had a gun. Well, he happened to be a Republican. You sold 20 million ARs and AKs all over the country, and your president in the early 00s re-legalized them. And you're worried about me. I'm 71 years old, and I never served in prison for an act of violence. And if I did get violent, somebody got what they deserved because they were putting me to the wall. Now, I also heard about voter fraud. Well, we had 3 in the area at the last presidential election. And it may have been the one before. One guy got a year's probation, and 2 people got nothing. And you know what I think? I think all these accusations of voter fraud are the fraud. It's probably a PA felony, and nobody gets punished even when they get caught. Recycling. Larger numbers on the bottles, and you might have to go to state and national representatives, but you can't even see whether something is recyclable. I do recycle, but you know, it's really difficult to determine. And with those parking garages, that was with the Evans Council, that was a game of chicken between the mayor and the council. So it was ill-advised of not paying the bill by them. Their accountant sheet looked like a high school reunion accounting whatever, or high school dance, you know, high school government. And by the way, the big, beautiful bill was passed today, and Mexico's going to pay for it. Get ready. 120 rural hospitals have closed previously. 300 will probably close. Rural hospitals. Insurance premiums will increase for everyone. Hospitals in Scranton are already in trouble and we got SNAP assistance. The money's being taken out of that, $7.25 an hour. And by the way, Mr. Kennedy, and you don't have to defend me, anybody from the audience, about if I get admonished about what I say. I'll assume responsibility for what I say. If I said what I really think, I'd probably get arrested, but about Mr. Kennedy. But the point in being, he fired 17 vaccination specialists last week, and he hired 7 vaccination deniers.
Thank you.
Gee, you know, keep me away from your kids.
Thank you.
I can't afford to be any sicker than what I've been.
Thank you, Mr. Dobson.
Have a good.
Anyone else?
Good evening, Marie Schumacher. I want to start off with telling you guys, if you have not been up to NAOG lately, you've missed something really good. And I don't know when it started, so I only know that it was a 4-day food, Jewish food at, and I was up there on Sunday, and oh my gosh, I had a fantastic brisket sandwich, and you might want to check and see if it's still available tomorrow. I don't know if tomorrow's the 4th day or it's
Tomorrow's the last day.
Is it? Okay, thank you. And I want to tell you that, report to you, I should say, is that wonderful, I don't even know what it is, across at Sorrente, I believe is the alley, when you come down Spruce Street, and you have to stop again and go really slow because otherwise you're going to kill your car. And I don't know why something can't be done. I mean, is it necessary that is there open for months? I don't understand that, but I wish you would find out why that is needed. I would like to hear that next week. The other thing I would like to hear, but I don't think I ever will, something that Tom asked or made comment about a little bit time ago, is when you are, one of you or more of you, are going to have an ordinance on our program. You have the right to do that. And it's been decades, and I've never seen it in one. So maybe you could get your heads together and come up with something that the administration hasn't come up with and bring it here. And then I have a problem. One of the avenues that I live on has, at one end, it says, no truck, before you go on to this, it says, no trucks except local deliveries. And then at the other end of that, it's like, I think it's 5 blocks long, it says nothing. So, I mean, who does that?
Is it the one, no trucks, the one coming from 307 onto the side street?
I'm sorry, I didn't get it.
Is it where the sign is? Is the sign on 307 going into the side street? That's why. Did you see the dip there? You know how many trucks get stuck there? Lots.
I know, yeah. Well, I don't know, but the other end, it just seems as though it should be the same on both ends when you're getting onto a road. But if you're satisfied with it, I guess I will have to be satisfied with it too. Okay, well, thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Scranton City Council. Mike Mancini. Tonight, let's play spades. I see things for what they are. As an independent thinker, I call a heart a heart and a spade. Council President Smurl, please enlighten us in fifth order as to why you really need a law firm from Philadelphia to help you with your campaign. My understanding is your so-called campaign had very questionable issues regarding signatures on more than one petition. I hope with your arrogance that you do file the new petitions as an independent to run for council. As an example, someone say like attorney Paul Walker would have a field day in the park regarding your questionable intentions. I personally had 267 signatures that I witnessed personally. I took the time to speak with everyone in length. We have many problems in our city that need to be addressed. You were not the answer. Good luck with your project. Councilman Schuster, your turn. Let's talk about the only crime watch program in our city, which you took leadership role as president. You dissolved the crime watch program because of lies that you knew were not true about me. The night in question, we had a meeting at the FOP Lodge on Railroad and Luzerne Streets. While at the light with a loaner vehicle from a dealership that sold me a horrible experience of an SUV, I accidentally tapped the vehicle from behind. She was going to the same meeting. I had coffee all over my sweatpants. And from the very minor tap, which cost approximately $750 for my insurance to resolve. Those meetings and the crime watch in general were very important to me and still are because of our current climate. Hearing several gunshots on January 11th, 2023 at 4:42 in the morning that almost fatally injured one of our bravest officers, Detective Kyle Gilmartin. Keeping our police officers safe in the current opioid crisis. Continue prayers to Kyle Gilmartin and those who have lost loved ones because of this crisis. Thank you to our police department. I feel so guilty because at one point I'm going to get justice, hopefully this September 12th. Others do not have that in our city. The true stories he made up, which you knew were not true, was that I hit the vehicle. What you said was the female whiplash and left the scene. There were many at that meeting and knew what happened, knew what I've endured personally, yet you spread lies. Be forewarned, like Tom Coyne versus the city of Scranton, you'll be served in that very same chair that you sit in at a day and time, am I so choosing. Spreading lies about someone's character who means well gets you in front of a judge. Dr. Rothschild, some time ago, you turned a two-syllable word into a four-syllable word, something I will never say. To each their own. Who am I to judge? I embrace diversity in our city. I look at those who have kind hearts and carry themselves well. Yet you have yet to apologize to me for your attempted targeting. You took a hateful depiction of me as a means to single me out while you fight for those who get singled out. You were successful at targeting me personally. Mr. King, who knew my mother very well, knows that I was not raised like that. He also knows that I would not hit a vehicle and just leave the scene. Mr. King knows me well enough knows that my strength comes from my mother. Both you, Mr. Schuster, Dr. Rothschild, have insulted me, my mother's upbringing, and to that, you're very disrespectful, to say the least. Mr. King, although we have had differences of opinion, you've been very respectful towards me. I'm proud to call you a friend. I wish you the best in your future. Mr. McAndrew is not here tonight, truly cares about our city. He keeps asking tough questions, and we need more like him on a daily basis. I call spade this evening. To the good people of Scranton who actually hold the cards, there's hearts in the deck. This is not about red or blue. It's about you. Get out and vote. You can make a difference because from what I see and witnessed, paying attention to our city's needs and desires, this is a very important election. Rely on character and not on trustworthy individuals who do not mean well. Since the three of you want a character shop, take a look at yourselves in the mirror.
Thank you. Your time
Oh,
is
and by the
finished.
way, Mr.
Your time is
Schuster,
finished. Thank
good luck
you.
with your project.
Thank you. Anyone else? That's it.
Fifth order, 5A motions.
Do any council member? I'm sorry. Mr. King, do you have any motions or comments?
Just, I think it was mentioned earlier, if we could get back, and I don't know who we're going to talk to about that situation with the dogs back on, I guess it's Pittston and Campbell, but there's multiple situations going on there, as pointed out. You know, those animals, I counted in the one picture, there was at least 10 huge dogs. That's not fair to the animals, and it's certainly not fair to the neighbors. I know the Hafners very well, and the situation that they've been placed in is not acceptable. Something needs to be done. So if we could contact, I don't know if it's the LIPS department or if it's somebody from even the mayor's office, to see what can be done to ameliorate that situation for them. Nobody should have to put up with that. And furthermore, you know, perhaps those animals need to be removed from that property and placed somewhere where they're going to be taken care of properly. So I would appreciate if we could jump on that. Mr. Coyne mentioned that pothole that has been existing for 6 months. If we could have DPW address that situation, be greatly appreciated. The other thing is, can we ask DPW also to look at the outlook on 307? Hasn't been brought up a whole lot recently, but the stones that have been missing up there, if we could look at, even if we have to hire a contractor to come in, a mason, to come back and a stone mason to place those stones back where they belong. I mean, that was built by the WPA many, many years ago. So love to see if DPW can get involved in addressing that situation. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. King. Mr. Schuster, do you have any motions or comments?
Yes, I have a few. The situation at 421 Campbell, as Mr. King said, is a disgusting situation. I was at the residence on 2 occasions. I saw the dogs myself. I also do know that you know, they did go in front of Judge Powell on the 10th. It was determined that it was a nuisance property, and they do have a hearing coming up on the 15th. I'd like to see things moving faster than they are, and I hope that on the 15th, you know, what was established on the 10th is you know, determined to be I don't know, Mr. Gobray, what would be the word? They determined on the 10th that it was a nuisance property. They determined that it was in violation of city zoning. I think Judge Powell also determined that the dogs need to be removed from the property, but at this point in time, it's in an appeal period, so they're waiting for the 15th. At that point in time, it's past the appeal period for that owner. But I hope that decision that Powell made stands, and I believe it will. For the Hafners, I hope the situation clears up as soon as it can. It's a health situation for the dogs, for the humans living in that home, and it's a safety situation for any of the neighbors that may be nearby if those dogs get out of the property. Switching subjects, my hats go off to the officers involved in apprehending the individual with the stolen vehicle. I know several officers were involved with that, so great job and good work. Over the last few days and few weeks, we've had many storms. I've had many calls about stormwater in several different areas in the city, but I'd also like to thank the DPW for quick responses in those recent storms. They've addressed many residents' concerns and got to speak with many residents that have issues and active issues that the department workers can see with the active rain that we've been having. I did have a chance to get to the ribbon cutting for Weston Field Pool. DNS Construction did a nice job. Everyone seemed to be having a great time at the pool that day in this hot weather, and glad to see that those upgrades occurred in the Weston Field area. I know some of the suggestions that residents made, not all of them got to be incorporated into the full project, but I do know that the neighborhood is very happy about those upgrades that occurred there. That's all, Mr. Smurl.
Thank you, Mr. Schuster. Dr. Rothschild, do you have any motions or comments?
Yes, thank you. First, I also wanted to just make a brief comment on the situation on Campbell Street, which I believe Ms. Hafner spoke to this evening, and I'm sorry that she has had to deal with that. It is a not only disgusting situation, but really terrible to see dogs being treated that way and not being well taken care of. So glad to see that it's moving along through the courts and that it was considered a nuisance property, but sounds like there needs to be more action than just the dogs being removed alone because of, like you said, the feces and the stench from that property, the couch that had been out there that I think she said since 2024 that looks like it's on her property. So I want to make sure that code enforcement is taking care of all of those concerns in addition to the animal situation.
I will, Dr. Rothschild.
Thank you. And one of the speakers had mentioned the Jewish Food Fest, which I was able to go to on Sunday, and I meant to bring up during announcements too. And I love going to that every year, and they expanded their menu this year too, so there's even more items on it. And the schnitzel was really great this year. So if anyone else has a chance to stop by, tomorrow is their last day of it. They'll be going until 7 o'clock. That's at Naog Park. And one of the other things that we had gotten the opportunity to do on Sunday, there was a lot going on at the park, but the new butterfly park, we did visit that at Naog, and my kids had a chance to play on the equipment, and it was really great to see us having that kind of equipment there, more accessible equipment for children who might need that. And I'd received a few responses from the administration. One of them, Councilman King had brought up about the lookout on 307, so I'd asked about that the other week, and the response we received was that the Parks Department's currently working with our engineers to determine what repairs are needed. So I thought that was already happening. I don't really feel like it's much of an update from where we're at, so I'd like to have some more commitment and a timeline to see when that's going to be taken care of. So if we could ask them again about the lookout and when they will have a plan together, if there's a timeline to that.
I will, Dr. Rothschild. I'll follow up for you and Mr. King.
Excellent. Thank you. And then there's a property I've been asking about for a couple of years now, 429 Prescott Avenue, that had a fire. And the response we've received on that, the update was that the property had an RFC and bond in place. The bond expired, and there's no Act 98 money in place, but a demo letter was scheduled to go out and went out on June 23rd. So I'm glad to hear that a demo letter went out. Seems like that property will hopefully get moved to the demo list and taken care of soon. And on the curb cut that we've been asking about for Colfax and Olive, the response I received on that was that Riley has completed the design and the project will be scheduled. So I guess I'm waiting the scheduled date on that, hopefully sometime this season and not next year. So I also had asked about the possibility of code reds from the city, and there was a speaker last week who brought up code reds that Lackawanna County was holding, and I didn't have much information on that, so I had requested that information. Still waiting on receiving more on that, but I was told that the city will look into these issues, and there's an unsheltered task force meeting coming up at the end of July, and I'll be present at that and bringing up the concern about code reds too, even though I know that will be mostly through the summer, but hoping to see whatever we can do with regards to that. And with these storms that have been happening lately and the bad one we had last Thursday in particular, want to thank DPW for all of their efforts and what they do during the storms, as well as our first responders. That seemed like a particularly bad one, and a lot of streets that were flooded and destroyed from that. I had received a complaint about Glen Street, which is in Pine Brook, over near Groove Brewing, and there's a property on Glen Street. It's 614, and I believe it's the only house on that street. There are businesses there too, but that had flooded pretty bad, and the only sewage drain that's there is just in front of that house, but there's no other ones on the street, and this resident regularly cleans out the drain that's in front of his property, and it was clean, he said, before the storm, but the street's still flooded, and he feels like that's because they could use another one somewhere on the street to help with draining all the water. So if DPW is able to look into that, that's 614 Glen Street, where I received that complaint.
I'll notify them.
Thank you. And then I noticed there were wooden barricades along Pine Street, so I know that DPW has already been there, and that was part of the cleanup from last Thursday's storm, as well as East Gibson Street over in the near the hospitals, near both Moses Taylor and Regional Hospital. Those, like that few block radius, was pretty badly affected with the pavement. So there was a lot of blacktop that came up, and that was just throughout the street. I know because I was a person that also had to drive through that, so a lot of it was cleaned up, but there's still a lot that needs to be done to rectify the pavement. So wanted to check to see when that will be performed, and if that's on the list for DPW to return to and do some paving, or how they're going to go about that.
I'll follow up.
Great, thank you. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Roth. The parking garages, next week at 5:45, we're going to have a caucus here. I know there's a lot of questions on it. I have a lot of information on it also. There's a few things that we do own the meters right now, and we will in the future own the actual garages. But as far as the bonds go, we are not going to be liable for 1 cent of the bonds. That is not, we are not refinancing anything, and we're not signing anything for that. Also, the parking authority itself is going to be dissolved. Since it has no authority with the parking company that's running this now, we're going to dissolve that, and that money that's in that account is going into repairs at the parking garages themselves. But next week at 5:45 at caucus, we will discuss all of that, and they will all be here. So if you have any questions or anything, maybe write them up, give them to Mr. Voldenberg, and then perhaps council could ask them while they're here, because you seem have a lot of questions, but if you get them to us, we can try to ask them if they can answer them. Also, the next Blighted Property Review Committee is scheduled for the meeting on Monday, July 28th. I don't have a time yet, but we will get that time about a week. They'll know?
We will.
Okay, so probably next week we'll let you know. And the last thing is our finance meeting. As of the end of May, all departments are on track. The overtime and everything is still handled. And the only thing I saw was out of line. Our health insurance was the prescription part of it. It really went way up. So they're looking into that now. But that is it about that. And the amount of interest we've made on taxpayer dollars as the end of May was $299,683.11. That's it, Mr. Voldenberg.
Can I make one more request, Mr. Smart?
Yes.
I know I did it by email, Mr. Voldenberg, but I requested so next week we do have the parking authority come in, or the parking, Grow America come in to discuss the parking situation. But then the following week we have the SRA director. And I know I did it by email, but could we get a list of properties that are owned by the SRA prior to that meeting?
She confirmed that she'll have that list for the meeting.
Okay, could we see if we can get it a little bit beforehand so we could just take
I'll
a
ask
review
for it beforehand.
Thank you very much. Also, that the blighted property review, can we get them to come in at some point in time for caucus so we could get a review of those properties as well?
Yes, yeah, I'll tell when we get closer to that meeting. This will be the first real meeting.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Okay?
5B for introduction, an ordinance establishing a school zone at Francis Willard Elementary School at the intersection of Hampton Street and South Main Avenue, the intersection of Hampton Street and 12th Avenue, the intersection of EYNON Street and South Main Avenue, and the intersection of EYNON Street and 12th Avenue.
At this time, I entertain a motion that item 5B be introduced into its proper committee.
So moved.
Second.
On the question, all those in favor of introduction signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it, and so moved.
5C for introduction, an ordinance establishing a no parking zone on EYNON Street at the MIDBLOCK crosswalk near Francis Willard Elementary School.
At this time, I entertain a motion that item 5C be introduced into its proper committee.
So moved.
Second.
On the question, all those in favor of introduction signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it, so moved.
5D for introduction, an ordinance establishing Hampton Street as a one-way eastbound roadway from 12th Avenue to South Main Avenue.
At this time, I entertain a motion that item 5D be introduced into its proper committee.
So moved.
Second.
On the question, all those in favor of introduction signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it, so moved.
5E for introduction, an ordinance amending file to council number 37 of 2016, an ordinance authorizing the mayor and other appropriate city officials to execute and enter into concession arrangements with Community Development Properties Scranton, Inc. with respect to metered parking in the city of Scranton and garages owned by the Parking Authority of the city of Scranton, Pennsylvania, pursuant to the Scranton Metered Parking System Concession and Services Agreement and Scranton Parking Facilities System Concession and Lease Agreement, and to authorize certain actions and ancillary agreements contemplated by the Metered System Concession Agreement and the Facilities Concession Agreement as amended by file to council number 23, 2018, and file to council number 27, 2022, as so amended and amended 2016 agreements. To authorize the mayor and other appropriate officials to execute and enter into the amended and restated Scranton metered parking system facility system to the city, to extend the term of the amended 2016 agreements, and to make certain other revisions to the amended 2016 agreements, and to authorize certain actions and ancillary agreements contemplated by the amended and restated agreements.
At this time, I entertain a motion that item 5E be introduced into its proper committee.
So moved.
Second.
On the question,
On the question, as it was stated earlier, the Grow America, or ABM, will be in for caucus next week, so if there's any questions, please get them to our city clerk, Frank Voldenberg.
all those in favor of introduction signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it, and so moved.
5F for introduction, an ordinance amending file to council number 91, 2002, an ordinance as amended, providing for the establishment of parking meter zones within the city of Scranton, establishing hours of operation, providing for the installation of meters and parking meter rates, authorizing the enforcement of parking ordinances and providing penalties for violations, therefore by amending Section 3A to reflect the change in hourly rates, as amended by file to council number 41, 2016, and file to council number 67, 2019, to authorize an increase in certain metered parking fees, an extension of the hours of metered parking enforcement, and the implementation of a service fee for credit card and certain other payment methods.
At this time, I entertain a motion that item 5F be introduced into its proper committee.
So moved.
Second.
On the question,
On the question, one thing I had in regard to this is I didn't know if the company had reached out and received input from any of the downtown businesses that they were going to be expanding their hours and also including those Saturdays. So that's something I think we should consider, as these businesses have also been affected by COVID, as Grow America is saying as well. And then with that being said, will the employees for parking enforcement also now be working later than they are currently?
On the question, I know one of the issues that they've been facing downtown is that there's a lot of downtown living now. So what's happening, as soon as 5 o'clock hits, people that live in those buildings, they're taking those spots. And it's limiting the ability for people to, even get into businesses and what have you. So I know that that was one issue that was brought up.
Yeah, and one other thing, and we'll ask them when they come, is that has this revenue for the additional 3 hours per day been estimated into what they're looking at for revenue, as well as those Saturdays? Have they done do they know what that those additional hours as well as Saturday is going to do for their revenue?
Okay. All those in favor of introduction signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? The ayes have it, and so moved.
5G for introduction to resolution. Resolution for plan revision for new land development located at 152 and 154 Batlock Street.
At this time, I entertain a motion that item 5G be introduced into its proper committee.
So moved.
Second.
On the question, all those in favor of introduction signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? The ayes have it, and so moved.
5H for introduction to resolution. Authorizing an agreement with King, Spry, Herman, Frund, and Fall LLC for assessment appeals legal services.
At this time, I entertain a motion that item 5H be introduced into its proper committee.
So moved.
Second.
On the question,
On the question, just reaching out to the business administrator at the city to see if we have any kind of estimate on how many hours this will take and how many appeals meetings they foresee. I don't know if it's a number that we could get or estimate, but if they have some sort of an estimate for hours and appeals meetings.
I'll ask those questions, sir.
Thank you.
all those in favor of introduction signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Ayes have it, and so moved.
5I for introduction, a resolution approving in accordance with Section 147F of the Internal Revenue Code of 1986 as amended, a plan of financing of the Scranton-Lackawanna Health and Welfare Authority to undertake a project for Community Development Properties, Scranton, Inc.
At this time, I entertain a motion that item 5I be introduced into its proper committee.
So moved.
Second.
On the question, all those in favor of introduction signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it, so moved.
5J for introduction, a resolution authorizing the acceptance and assumption by the City of Scranton of all right, title, and interest in and obligations of the Parking Authority of the City of Scranton, Pennsylvania, in the Scranton metered parking system and the Scranton parking facility system pursuant to the terms and conditions of an assignment and assumption agreement between the authority and the city. Authorizing the mayor and other appropriate city officials to execute and enter into the transfer agreement, and authorizing the mayor and other appropriate city officials to execute other documents and take other action in furtherance of the foregoing.
At this time, I entertain a motion that item 5J be introduced into its proper committee.
So moved.
Second.
On the question, all those in favor of introduction signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? The ayes have it, and so moved.
5K for introduction, a resolution authorizing the acceptance and acquisition by the City of Scranton of ownership and title to the parking garages owned by the Parking Authority of the City of Scranton, Pennsylvania, authorizing the mayor and other appropriate city officials to execute and enter into an assignment and assumption agreement with the authority to provide for such acceptance and acquisition of the parking garages, and authorizing the mayor and other appropriate city officials to execute other documents and take other action in furtherance of the foregoing.
At this time, I entertain a motion that item 5K be introduced into its proper committee.
So moved.
Second.
On the question, all those in favor of introduction signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it, so moved.
Sixth order, no business at this time. Seventh order, 7A, previously tabled. For consideration by the Committee on Rules for adoption, Resolution Number 235, 2025, authorizing the mayor and other appropriate city officials to execute and enter into a contract with People Guru, Inc. to perform payroll processing services.
As chairperson for the Committee on Rules, I recommend final passage of item 7A.
Second.
On the question, roll call, please.
On the question,
Yes.
I had asked who the previous company was, and the company was We Pay, and the cost was $71,000 a year.
And just so you know, We Pay did not submit a bid.
Right. Sorry, yeah,
Okay,
correct.
roll call, please.
Mr. King?
Yes.
Mr. Schuster?
Yes.
Dr. Rothschild?
Yes.
Mr. Smurl?
Yes, hereby declare item 7A legally and lawfully adopted.
Eighth order, 8A, filed to council number 80, 2025.
This ordinance is the HUD 2025 Consolidated Plan. It has been tabled until public hearing can be held Tuesday, July 29th, 2025 at 5:45 p.m.
8B, resolution number 235, 2025.
This resolution was taken from the table and placed in seventh order for final vote this evening. If there is no further business, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
This meeting is adjourned. Thank you.